My name is Gabriela E. Martinez, and I am currently a junior. I am striving to obtain my bachelor's degree in bilingual education with a certification in EASY through 6th grade. This chart will definitely allow you to get to know me much more. It tells you a little bit about my personality, my beliefs, and my values. I am 31 years old, have been married for a little less than 12 years, and I am also a mother to 4 beautiful children, which consist of 3 boys and a little girl. I was born and spent most of my childhood in Dallas, Texas. I was the 5th child of the 6 children my parents had. It consisted of 4 girls and 2 boys. Despite the fact that the area where I lived in was considered to be a ghetto, as they would call back then, I had a really nice childhood. Living in Dallas then, I had my best friends who were also my neighbors. We were always together, and even though I have moved, we still keep in touch quite often. We lived in a very small house. I remember most eating tortillas de harina with frijoles along with sopa de fideo. In reality, now that I think back to those times, we were poor. We were the low-income family. Both of my parents worked, and although my parents did struggle to make ends meet, we never felt like we were missing anything. We didn't lack food, we didn't lack shelter or clothing for that matter. But it took me some time to learn to appreciate what we had then to what we have now. It was until I became a parent that I came to that realization. When it comes to my family, I could say that we are a middle-class family. It was at the age of 11 that we packed our belongings and moved to Laredo to be closer to my parents' family. Adjusting overall wasn't difficult for me as it was for my brothers and sisters. Laredo was a very different place then to what we were used to in Dallas. When we moved to Laredo, I felt that we were in between the low and middle class. We didn't have AC or a restroom for that matter inside our house in Rio Bravo, which is located about 12 miles outside of Laredo. My dad, who was a contractor then, built one outside, and well, that's what we would use. I do believe that the world is changing very quickly right before our eyes. My belief has always been to each his own. Personally, for me, I am straight, also known as heterosexual. As a teacher, though, I do believe that no matter what we believe in, it is important that we stay neutral inside our classroom. Our students will spend the majority of the day with us, and therefore they need to feel like they can trust us, and that we can be there for them if needed. Whether or not I agree, nonetheless, it isn't my place to judge. I consider myself Hispanic. However, in my family, it's not called that. We are Mexicanos. My family is extremely large. My grandmother had 12 children, with my mom being the oldest. I have well over 50 cousins and counting. Being Mexicana and having a large family is normal. It is what is expected of our culture. There is no such thing as having a small get-together. Despite the fact that it can be overwhelming and sometimes expensive, I love being around so many people. We have reunions, quinceañeras, and even weddings every couple of years for the same reason that it's just in our culture. Not only do we celebrate those types of events, but we also celebrate 16 de septiembre, 5 de mayo, Día de los Muertos, to name a few events. I was born and raised Catholic. Ever since I was little, I remember going to Sunday's Mass. It was like a tradition. After every Mass, every Sunday, very much like in our culture, we would get together and have a cookout with the whole family every Sunday, without fail. Even though I did attend Mass, and even though I was little, I remember that I would often fall asleep. I do value my religion very much. However, I do feel that there is more work needing to be done for me spiritually. Being Catholic, there were also several requirements that we had to follow. In order for me to be married by the church, I must have obtained my 3 sacraments. Being the traditional parents I had, If I wanted to get married, I could not move in with my husband until I was married through the church officially. Oddly enough, 12 years later, very few people get married. However, this was something I did value when I was young, and it's a big part of my Catholic faith. I think of Supergirl, Wonder Woman, Catwoman, all of these superheroes, even though fantasy, they empower us in many different ways. Not only am I just a female, but I am also a mother and a wife. I feel that females or women are just as strong as men in many different ways. We do things that not only empower others, but most of all ourselves. I bet you saw this one coming. Yes, I will bring up women having children. I truly believe women were given this gift and blessing for a reason. At this point, if we can give birth to tiny little miracles, as women, we can conquer the world. When it comes to exceptionality, I don't think I'm a GT necessarily. I don't have any type of learning disability. However, there are some strengths and weaknesses that I do have. So therefore, I would pretty much consider myself an average person. I feel extremely passionate when it comes to language. Being bilingual means speaking two different languages fluently. Just like when one reads books, the mind is exposed to a whole new world. Being bilingual does exactly the same, but it also opens up doors of countless amazing opportunities that others might not have. So my family, what does it have to do with everything in my identity? I value my family very much. More importantly, I challenge myself to give my children this example, not only as individuals, but with their heritage. I will not just be their mother, but I will also be a teacher to them in many different ways. The number one thing I will embrace, however, in my children's life is language. As we get older, we often lose our identity, which can happen. Many of us are bilinguals, but when it comes to speaking or writing or reading Spanish, many of us get stuck. And it's okay because it tends to happen. But as many of my former professors have said, if you don't practice the language, you will lose it eventually. And that's the last thing I want for my children, my family, my students to forget.